Well, hello friends, it's Dean here again, and this time I'm doing a very small tutorial on HTML, in specific HTML version 5, which is our current version. There's been versions before it, obviously, since we're on version 5 now, but version 5 is probably, well, normally the latest greatest is the latest greatest, and HTML5 is absolutely stunning. The abilities and so forth compared to previous versions of HTML. Now, basically every website that you go to, okay, is a HTML based website, okay? And if there is any dynamic stuff, such as, for instance, what dynamic means is if, like, let's say you're talking to a backend, okay? Like, let's say in this case, on this website, for instance, you've got to enter some details. This is all HTML. And then when you click the send button, it actually will send an email to the owner of this website with your contact request. Now, that is done through your browser using JavaScript, okay, which talks to a backend written in whatever other language. But the front end, okay, so in other words, the client side, in other words, that which runs inside of a browser, you can really think of basically as HTML, JavaScript, and then something called CSS, okay, for theming. It's style sheets, and CSS stands for cascading style sheets. But don't worry about those technicalities, you don't need to know that. Other things, for instance, that you can do with HTML, other than displaying pictures and text and so forth, like here's a little slideshow that's going to go across here. There's all sorts of things you can do with it. This is all HTML, all right. Another thing that you can do, for instance, with HTML5 is to display videos on a website. So this is an HTML5 video. Well, it's a video playing with HTML5 as the container. All right, so like I say, so HTML allows you to do all sorts of things. Basically everything you see on a website is, the visual side of it is HTML, the theming, and JavaScript. Okay, now to start with your very first web page, okay, we're going to call it, but there's a standard that says it should be index.html, all right, and that's the name of the file. Okay, now index means that the server, okay, in other words, the web server, the program that knows how to send your HTML down to a client's browser, okay. If it's index.html, all right, then that's the very first page that gets contacted by a client on the server, and then the server sends down whatever is in index.html to the browser on the client side, and it displays it. So it's got a, so in other words, it's like a language, all right, that gets sent from the browser, from the server onto your browser. All right. Now that language, as we've stated, is called HTML. All right. Hypertext markup language. Now, don't get confused with it as in it's a language, you know, like English or, you know, German or Russian or whatever. And also don't get confused that it's a language as in a programming language, such as C++, C#, well, JavaScript itself. All it really is it's a way to lay things out on a web page. All right. So in other words, if you want a little bit of content, a little bit of text to say, hello, how are you? All right. You can do that with HTML. But if you want to change the colors of that, hello, how are you, or whatever, then you actually start moving away from the HTML layout stuff and actually move into the styling and the theming. Okay. So how HTML works is, okay, we will open up our, I'm on Linux, so this is Xed. If you're on Windows, you could use Notepad, but basically anything that can edit text, all right? So if you just type in, like, anything, hello world, all right? Traditionally, we normally write our first program in anything, we always say hello world. So we can now save this, Control S on that, and I'm going to save it, let's say for instance, into my, where's my projects folder? Well, we'll just save it in here. All right, so like I said, we've got to give it the name of index.html. All right, you don't have to, all right, for this exact example I'm going to be giving you now. But when you're dealing with servers that has to send this HTML across the internet to somebody's browser, like a server like that will be, for instance, if you in the Microsoft world, it could be Internet Information Server, IIS. It could be Apache, also in the Microsoft world, as well as Linux and so forth, Nginx. These are all servers that send your HTML to a client, into somebody's browser, in other words. So the HTML actually relies on a server somewhere, which you then access by calling the file index.html, and it then sends that HTML down to your browser, and your browser knows how to display it because of this, let's call it this language. The browser understands the HTML language. So like I say, we're going to save this file just as index.html, and we say save on that. All right, so, and all I've said is hello world. All right, if I now go and I actually open that file, so let's just browse to it. If we just browse to that file and we double click on it, so that will be under, I think it was GitLab. There's my index.html file. All right, by the icon, it already tells me that, you know, it's aware that a browser must open it. But okay, so if we just double click on it, all right, and it'll open the browser up, and mine is set up differently, but if you just double click on it, okay, it'll take you to your browser and it'll say hello world. Okay, and that's an HTML web page, and it works. Now the thing is, you could say, but you want different background colors and all sorts of other things. Hello there, yeah, okay, but I don't know why I put a W at the end of hello world, but okay. But all right, so let's keep this page open. Let's not close it. All right, so what we can then do is, if we go back to where we're editing this hello world, all right, let's just get rid of that. Okay, an HTML page has got a format which it follows. All right, you don't have to do it like I've just shown you. If you just type something, okay, then your browser will display it just as is. It'll just display, okay, whatever you told it. But there are certain things that says to the browser that, hang on, this is something special. This is part of the HTML language, okay? And that is when you put things inside of your greater than and smaller than sign, little brackets, okay? So what you would typically do, all right, with an HTML5, which is what we're going to be doing in our case, you don't have to do this, all right? But it's just sort of tells the browser that, hey, we are going to be dealing with HTML5 from now on, okay? All right, so now it knows that we are on HTML5. Okay, so now if we run it, all right, you would think that, okay, so it's going to show us doc-type HTML and then hello world, all right? No, it won't, okay? So if we save this, all right, and then we go back to our browser, okay, and we're on our hello world page, our index.html, and just press F5. F5 works in all browsers, all right? Press F5 and it'll reload this page, all right? It'll reread it, all right? And you notice that the spelling of hello has changed to the correct spelling, but it's not showing that doc type HTML, all right? And the reason for that is that's part of the HTML language, okay? So it's more a command to do something than an actual necessary a piece of text that's displayed. Like hello world is just a piece of text, okay? Now, there are certain standards which we follow when we write an HTML page, all right? So let's take this hello world out for now. And so we start off with doc-type HTML just to tell the browser that, look, this is HTML5, so it knows how to interpret it and so forth, okay? And what we do is we start with another tag called head. All right, and every tag, okay, must be closed again. All right. So you open it and then you close it with a / and head again. All right. And then, oh, sorry, one thing I forgot here is we must specify that, again, everything that follows from this point forward is HTML. So we tell them we start a new tag HTML. All right. And at the bottom here, we close that tag called HTML. All right. But now a standard with HTML, all right, well, many different languages and so forth, is to indent. This is, okay, the tag's contents. Okay, so like I said, HTML, all right, is a tag that opens, and then down here it closes because we've got the / here. So that means that everything that's inside of HTML, all right, is indented, all right, by 1. Okay, 1 more than what the parent tag is. So head is indented by 1 more than what HTML is. All right, now, so for instance, in head, all right, yeah, you can go and press enter, and again we indent it. Okay, and this time we're going to type in title. All right, okay, and close that. Oops. Okay, I should say that it's not case sensitive, so I typed it with capital T there just now, but it's generally accepted that HTML we code in, or we write in lowercase. You don't have to, but that is how everyone else does it, and we just stick to the same way, so we all know what we're doing. All right, and let's give it a title, and we say, well, it's Hello World. Okay, now what the title will do, all right, is on the top of your website. Okay, so if we go here, you see here where it says Mozilla Firefox. Okay, if we go to another page like here, all right, it says dimension 15, for instance. Okay, so this is the title, all right, of your web page. So we're going to just say it's Hello World. All right, so if we save that, all right, and we come back to our page in our browser, come to the right page, and we say F5, and you'll notice up top here now it has said Hello World. All right, but nothing is on the page here. All right, and the reason for that is if we look at this code, this HTML, all right, we've actually, everything is inside tags, so everything is HTML, so it's instructions to do something. Okay, and the only thing that we've told it ever to really write out was to say that the title is Hello World. All right, now if you want to put again, for instance, what we had in the beginning, Hello World with an exclamation mark, all right, then after head, okay, after the header, all right, we have something called the body. Okay, oops, sorry, I should open the tag, and we have the body. All right, so we close the tag, or we close the all right, and then we say / and body. All right, so now everything we type inside here, all right, is going to be displayed as is. So if we put our Hello World there again, we're going to have a title of Hello World, and in the body it's going to print out Hello World. But so if we save that, we go back to our web page and we press F5. All right, now notice up top here, okay, there it is, Hello World. All right, and what you can do in your browser is right mouse click on this page, and then you can view the page source. All right, and it shows you that this is what we actually sent to it. Well, in this case, I just opened it up directly from the hard drive, but it might have been over the internet to server. Then that's what he'll display to you, and he'll tell you this is what actually is behind the HTML page that you see here. This is, so again, if we view the page source, so this is what he shows you, but this is what he actually reads, him being the web browser, okay? Whatever it may be, you know, Safari, Firefox, Chrome, etc. All right, they're all the same. All right, so there we have something nice and simple. We've got a little HTML index.html page that says Hello World to us, okay? And this is sort of the standard how we do things. Now you could type, like I said, like I'm using Xed, but you could use Notepad or Notepad++, whatever you feel comfortable with. But you've got to then be aware of, you know, to remember to put your tabs in properly so things are indented properly and so forth. But you do get certain or applications which you can use, which are a little bit more powerful and oriented to doing HTML editing than, for instance, something like Notepad is. Okay, Notepad is just plain text. Okay, now even though HTML is just text, these tags and stuff actually mean something. So like you can see in this thing, this Xed that I'm using, okay, it's made them all different colors. All right, so the doc type is brown, and then the tags themselves are dark blue, and then the text that it's going to display is white. All right, so I can with my eye very easy follow how things, you know, are going to be displayed and so forth. But like I say, if you want something a little bit more powerful than something like Notepad, okay, you can, everything I'm going to show you, you can do in Notepad, okay, or Xed or Notepad++, APAD, whatever you want to use. Of course, if you're a programmer and you're learning, you can do it in Visual Studio and Visual Studio Express, etc. And the one that I'm going to be using, all right, so if I close this down, is going to be Visual Studio Code, all right. So if I open up Visual Studio Code, that is, all right, and I say File, and I say we actually want to close all that down. So let's just come in here, all right, and so in the folder where the index.html is, okay, there's the index.html, all right, I'm just going to say code. Open this folder, okay, and it's going to open it up for me, and there's my index.html file. Okay, so I can now edit it and do all sorts of weird and wonderful things to it, and this interface, this Visual Studio Code, all right, is going to make my editing easier, all right, by changing colors and auto indenting and doing all sorts of things for me. So you already noticed this doc type HTML was brown. All right, and it's now blue that I can actually see much easier. Now let's say, for instance, all right, you say, well, hello world, but the body, okay, now everything you see here, all right, all this whiteness, okay, that's the body, all right, not all of it, but you'll see now why I say not all of it, but that's the body. So let's say we want to make our body, let's make it blue, okay, so our background, we want blue, all right. So what you need to do is on the body tag, okay, if you just, so one little space there, and then you say style equals, and close your brackets, all right, your inverted commas. Then it's going to give you a whole lot of options in Visual Studio. Now in Notepad, for instance, you won't get these options, okay? But that's the nice thing about using something like Visual Studio Code. It tells you what your options are. So if I want to change, for instance, the background color, so I type out background, and there it's got color for me. All right, so I click on background color, and it's got a couple of options for me, and there's blue. All right, so I click on blue. All right, and what's very nice about Visual Studio Code as well is now it's going to put that little blue box there. If I just hover over it, okay, sorry, over the, come on, if I hover over blue, all right, it actually shows me this color picker, and I can change it to whatever I want, and I say, well, no, I actually wanted this color, or whatever the case may be. But in our case now, we wanted blue, so I'm going to say Control Z and go back to blue there. Come on, did I not? There we go, blue. All right, so now if we go to our hello world again, all right, and F5, okay, come on, did it not F5 now? Why is it not changing? Oh, sorry. The reason is, as you'll see in Visual Studio Code, it shows you like that this page hasn't been saved yet. Okay, so I just saved it now. All right, so if we come back to our browser, we say F5, everything is blue. Okay, well, now we can't really see the text very well, can we? Okay, because it's a dark color. So we wanted, for instance, let's say, I don't know, yellow. All right, so we do the same thing. So we've got style on this thing, but the problem, this is just a bit of text just thrown out there. Okay, it doesn't actually have a tag telling it what it is. So what your browser does is, if it doesn't find a tag and he finds something like this, there's just something typed there, he doesn't know what it is, all right? So he just prints it out on the screen as is, all right? So by pure chance, he's printed out the words hello world. But the right way is actually to make it a label, all right, or a paragraph. Okay, let's make it, for instance, a paragraph. All right, so another tag we can use, okay, is just P. All right, and you'll see in Visual Studio he opens and closes it immediately for you, so just copy paste it over. All right, so now if we save that page and we come to our browser in F5, okay, hello world, it's moved down ever so slightly and so forth. And the reason for that is because how your browser handles P. P stands for paragraph, all right? So that's the beginning of a paragraph. Now you might want to say, but hang on, I want my paragraph, okay, to change the color of the hello world. So we say style again, and now we just say color. Color is basically your foreground color, your text color, and we're gonna make it, well, corn silk, all right, almost white. All right, and remember again up top here, that little blue, that little dot there means we haven't saved it yet. So we Control S. You'll have to Control S as well in Notepad, etc. You've got to save your stuff. All right. So if I F5 now again, or refresh up top here, if I refresh, that hello world will suddenly become a light color. All right, and so we've changed the background color and we've said hello world as a paragraph. Now, for instance, okay, you might want a horizontal line under hello world because you want this hello world to be some kind of heading or something, all right? And under that, so let's take P again. Let's copy that whole line, all right? And say we want to say, this is my first page, HTML5 page, okay, and if we save that, Control S, and if we F5 here, okay, so he's put them both underneath each other, but we want this to look slightly different. Okay, that's sort of like a heading. So one thing we can do is we can put a line between the two, and HTML does allow you to have something called a horizontal line, HR, here we go, all right, and oops, and if we Control S on that and F5, there's our horizontal line. Now you'll notice, okay, in all the examples that I've given you so far, you've had an opening tag and a closing tag. You've had the opening P, okay, and the closing P, okay, that / there. So you've got an opening and a closing. The HR doesn't have an opening or a closing, okay. Another thing which you could do is, for instance, say that you want this to be brought down a couple of lines, okay? So, you know, for instance, you want it down the page like that, all right? So the way you do that in HTML, okay, is you can decide where you want to put it now, okay, before the P or inside the P for the paragraph, but typically you'll want to do it inside. Now, because of the fact that we are working with a P tag, okay, we should actually put that P on a new line and then the code or the data that we want to display on the screen inside that, okay. So now we can follow it much easier with our eye. All right, so we've got P here, okay, and we've got the close tag here as well. So now we can see we've got our body, which is blue. We've got a paragraph, which is in corn silk. It's almost white, that it says hello world. Then we have got our horizontal line. Then we've got another paragraph, and inside that is the text. This is my first HTML page, which is also corn silk in color. All right. Now, HTML does give you some things to make this bit easier. This way where I'm trying to explain to you that you want this to have a complete different look. Okay, you want this to be like some kind of heading. Like, for instance, like if you're using Microsoft Office or LibreOffice, you want it to be a heading, not normal text, okay? So HTML has got an answer for that as well, all right? So instead of saying P here, we can say H1, all right? And then remember, we must close it as well, H1, okay? That's the tag. We open and close the tag, all right? And we can get rid, well, we can leave the horizontal line for now, HR. All right. But now remember what it looked like. So if I say save, now look what it looks like here now. Hello world. All right. And if I refresh it, wow, that's what H1 does. Okay. You can also put in another H underneath that. Now, normally H's, just by standard, we normally don't put on new lines. We normally just do it like that. Okay. It's just simple, easier to read and so forth. Okay. But like for instance, the P here, all right, we keep like that. All right. And if I want to, like, this is my first HTML page. Okay. And then underneath that, I want to say, and this is line 2. All right. So we say Control S. So you notice we get a paragraph. All right. And we've got, this is the first line and this is the second line. So if we go to our page and we F5, oh my heck, what happened here? He put it all on one page, on one line. Okay. The reason for that is HTML doesn't understand things like enters and stuff like that and multiple spaces. But HTML understands up to one space. If I want many spaces, like let's say I want space, I want it to look like that. All right. If I go to my HTML and I F5 it, it looks the exact same. It cannot read more than, or doesn't display more than one space at a time. There is a shortcut, or there's a workaround to that. Okay, but we can cover maybe that later. But all right, so what we actually want to do is we actually physically want to tell HTML that there is a break between those two lines. So we put in the break tag. Okay, now what we've done here is we've created a tag, the BR, the break tag, okay, and close the tag immediately. All right, that's how the break tag works. Okay, the other tags don't work like that. They either have no ending, all right, or they work like all these other tags. It's got a /P and a different tag, you know, the closing tag, or they only have, like for instance, like I say, like in an image, for instance, there is no close like that at all. It's just one tag. All right, so if I save this now, so all we've added was this BR. All right, so if we come in here now, boom, let's put it on the second line. Okay, but like I said, this hello world, all right, maybe that's too big for us. Okay, you can change that. Okay, so if you go look at your H1 style, let's for instance say there is no style at the moment. All right, we just make H1 just whatever the browser considers H1, how it should print it. Different browsers are slightly different. Some are slightly bigger text, some are, you know, different font, you know, it depends, but they're all sort of similar, but they're not exactly the same. If you want them to be exactly the same, you've got to tell them what the color must be and so forth, what the font is and what the font size must be and so forth. But if we just say H1 for heading 1, with our opening and closing tags, okay, and the word that it must display is hello world. So I've saved it now. So if we come here now and I say F5, all right, so that is the default color, all right, that black for a heading. Now in our case that doesn't work. We don't like that. All right, so we want to put back our style, all right, and say that the color must be corn silk. Alternatively, you can select another color like I showed you. You can just hover in Visual Studio Code, that is. You can hover and click on the color, you know, whichever color you want. You can go and choose a color. So let's say that color, and we can Control S it. And if we refresh here, F5, all right, you'll notice the color has changed. Okay. Now, let's get rid of this horizontal line, yeah? All right, we don't really use horizontal lines nowadays anymore. All right, so I save that again and F5, and that's what it looks like. All right, but let's say, for instance, I've got many paragraphs. Okay, I don't only have one paragraph. All right, so I've got that, and then I've got, for instance, another header. This is a H2, not an H1, a H2. All right, so it's opening, closing it. So in between the two, I've got to write what my heading is, and we're going to say, for instance, just call it subheader for now. This is what's going to display on the screen, subheader. Okay, and then under that, we've got another another paragraph. All right, But let's say we didn't put in the corn silk here. Okay, so it's just a P. Now remember up top here, okay, yeah, we've put in the P and we said the style, okay, and the color, in other words, the text color is corn silk, all right, almost white. Okay, but yeah, we never specified a color, all right. So it's whatever the default is for your particular browser of what it writes P in what color it is, all right. So if I save that, so we're gonna have a copy of this bit here, this here, but with a break in between them. Okay, so F5. So you see how dark everything has come out. Okay, so again, the default style or theming of the browser is that your text is black. Okay, now this does not look very good on a dark blue background. Okay, so we got to change all that. All right, now we can't go and every single time if we have a paragraph, for instance, then we say again, okay, style equals, okay, well, let's do it. Let's say style equals color equals corn silk. All right, so if we do that, all right, and we refresh, we save it and then refresh. Okay, so now this is visible, but let's say we want to change that color. We don't like that color anymore. All right, now you've got to change it down here, and you've got to change it here. So, but your HTML page might be 1,000 lines long or 2,000 lines long. It shouldn't be, but it could be. Then you've got to remember everywhere you've got to change it. It just gets irritating and frustrating. Okay, so what they've got is style sheets, okay, CSS, okay. There's also wrappers to CSS like SCSS and SASS. I personally like type coding in SCSS, but everything gets converted to CSS at the end of the day. So in order to do that, okay, on top here by your head, okay, inside of your head here, you create a new tag, all right, and it's called style. Okay, so we close it, all right, and all right, so it's an open close. And now inside here we're going to say, okay, everything that's a P, all right, you see I put in those squiggly paragraphs, okay, has got to have the color corn silk and put a semicolon at the end. Lines always end with a semicolon. A lot of programming languages work like that, and as well as so does HTML. So I don't have to have on P anymore, all over the place, this corn silk. All right. It'll know everything that is P, all right, gets the color corn silk applied to it. So if I save that and I come here and I say F5, it should now look still the exact same. And yes, I just said F5 and it looks the exact same. But let's say I want to change the color now. I don't like corn silk, all right? I don't have to change it for every P anymore, all right, for every paragraph. I just change it up top here once. So I choose my new color. Let's say I want a sort of a bluish color. Let's say that color, all right? And I save it, Control S, and I come back here and F5. So look at the color of this code. This text and this text. So here we go, F5. See, it's gone slightly more blue. All right. So you only have to do it at one place. That's up in your style here. Okay. So okay. Now let's say one of the new HTML5 tags that you can use instead of paragraph, for instance, is something called article. All right. So if we get rid of all of this, well, let's keep this text here, okay, and let's get rid of the paragraphs, okay. So if all we've got now, if I save that and I F5 here, we've just got the heading, okay, hello world. All right, I can come here now and I can say a new tag, and it's called article, okay. The article element represents a complete or self-contained composition in a document, page, application, etc. Okay, so we want to select article. This means something to like Google search engines, and DuckDuckGo and so forth. So they interpret, when they see the article tag, they interpret the text that you're going to put inside there a certain way. And that it normally means that they do better searching on it and so forth. So if I put back my text from just now, okay, so it's an article now, and we still got our break for our second line, and I save that, and I come here and I F5, and all right, so there's our article. But again, it's blue. All right, so what we can, not blue, it's black, so you can't really see it. All right, so we come up top here as well to the style, and we say everything that's article, or everything that's inside of article must have the color. Let's give it a color of just plain white. Okay, white. All right, semicolon, remember, and control save that, and we come here and we say F5. Now look at the color of all this. Boom, it's changed. So now any article I have anywhere in my HTML is going to be that color. So if I want to change it, I only have to change it once, and that's up top here. Okay. Now what you can do as well is you can create your own it's a division, all right, a div tag, okay, which you sort of have more control over. Like a lot of these other tags, you can almost say they are based on a div tag. It's just a specialized version of it. But if you create your own div tag, you're in more control, and you can create it the way you want it to be. So let's say, for instance, okay, you create after article here, all right, we create a div tag, all right. So if we close that, it will automatically create the close tag for us, again in Visual Studio, not in Notepad or Xed or anything. But all right, so you need to open and close it. And notice that I have not specified up top here in style that div is a particular color. So we're going to have the same problem with the black text, all right. But let's say we want to say, this is my special text. All right. And ultimately, we want that to be a different color, and we also want that to be in the center of our page. All right. So in other words, over here is where we want it. So if I F5, there it is now. Okay. And it's black. All right, which we can't see. And it's not centered. All right. So what we can do is, all right, we can come up top here as well and say every single div, okay, must have a color white, the same as what you did with the article and same as what you did with paragraph. But maybe that's not what we want. Maybe we only want this particular div. Okay, so other divs must not have this color. All right. So then what you can do is, instead of saying style, all right, you say class. All right, give it a class. All right, give it some name. Let's call it my div. All right, and it's going to get the colors from the class my div, which is also a CSS class. Now the difference between, you'll notice P and article, all right, those are actual HTML tags. So you write them as is. But if you're creating your own class, you just put a dot in front of it, okay, and then you say, what do we call it? My div. My div. Okay, and then again your squiggly brackets, and we'll say color equals, we want it to be turquoise, okay, and we want it to be text aligned to center, okay. But that's not the end of it yet though. But all right, so we said this class, okay, must have this, sorry, this tag must have this class assigned to it. Okay, so if we come back in here, F5, okay, this is my special text. Why did I not save it now? My div, oh sorry, case, the case is wrong. Okay, it is case sensitive, capital M, but remember the dot. All right, so we save that, and F5, and there he's gone and stuck it in the middle of our page with that color. Now, any other div that I have, all right, let's make a copy of the exact same div. All right, we just take the class out. Okay, just take this class out. All right, what color do you think it's going to now say is my special text here. So the first one we know is going to be from my div. So it's going to be turquoise. What color do you think it's going to be now? All right. So if we go look and we F5, so okay, it should be over here now. All right. It's black again and it's not centered. Why? Because we said on the first div, we said it must look at the class my div up top here and do those commands there. And the second one, we did absolutely nothing. We just said div. All right. So if you want the second one to do the same, okay, you can just copy this class bit here, just paste it there. All right. Just make it look neat. All right. And if we come here and we say F5, there we have our 2. Okay. But now let's say, for instance, you want this div to be a different class. So it's my div 2, for instance. All right. Well, now we need to have a my div 2 as well, not just a my div. So we need a my div 2. And in this case, the text alignment is going to be to the right. Okay. And the color is going to be, let's say, red. Red. Okay. So save that, come to here, and there it is. It's on the right and it's in red. Okay. So what we basically looked at here is how to create a HTML5 web page by specifying that it's HTML5. You don't have to. Your browsers nowadays will figure it out, but it's just nice. Just tell them, look, this is an HTML5 page that you're looking at, and it knows how to interpret it better that way. Okay, and then what we went and did is we added a body, well, a header with a title, but we added a body and we put some stuff that it must display in the body. But all the stuff it's displaying is inside of tags. Okay, so we've got the article tag, we've got the div tag. Okay, there's other tags as well, a span tag, a header tag, a footer tag. But this is the basics of it all. All right, is that you can specify a okay, when it comes to specifying the colors themselves. Okay, so like for instance on H1, remember the default is black. All right, then we specified that the style, okay, this is called an attribute. Okay, if you've got a tag, okay, so let's say for instance like article, all right, and there's something else you want to type here, it gives you some options and whatever that you can type here, and this is where you'll write style, for instance. Okay, now that style is called an attribute. So the H1 is the tag name. Okay, then you have an attribute, okay, which is what they call a key value pair. So it's the key or the name and then the value. All right. And what we've said is, so on H1, on headers, H1 headers, we want to have the style changed to specify our own color of the text. Text color, you just say the color. You don't have to say text color, you just say color. Okay. And the browser will know what you mean by that. Okay, and then we've given it this color. Now this color is like written in a weird way. Okay, what's this RGB 621645? Okay, you could have said, all right, just say for instance green. All right, and that will work perfectly fine. All right, so if we save that and we come here and we say F5, okay, it changes to a greenish color. Or too green, but it still doesn't look very good on our blue background. But you might actually say, but hang on a second, how many colors can I change it to? Well, there are a few colors that HTML recognizes, all right? And you can type these names in, okay, aquamarine and bisque and blue and whatever. There's a few colors here, okay? But not every single possible color is here, all right? So let's say we like this orange red one, or orchid, or pale green. Let's try this pale green here. All right. So save that. And we come here and we F5, and hello world is now a nice pale green, so it stands out more. Okay. But the thing is, those are what we call named colors. Okay. Now all colors actually are are based on something called Rgb channels. Okay, the color channels, red, green, and blue. As you might have learnt already from school or whatever, that all colors, well, depends which, you get RGB, CMYK, and so forth, but typically all colors are combinations of red, green, and blue. Okay, if you have all red, green, and blue added together, you get the color white. And if you have nothing added together, you get the color black. And then everything in between is what percentage of red, green, and blue is there. So what these numbers actually mean, so if I change this to, and I say RGB, okay, so I'm telling them I'm going to specify the red, green, and blue channels. All right, so I want it to be a little bit more reddish. Okay, so how this RGB works in anything, this is not specific to HTML, it's Photoshop, anything works like this. Okay, so if you've got what they call 8-bit per channel or 24-bit color, which is what we've got, all right, with RGB, that means you've got a byte number of colors for R, a byte for G, and a byte for B. Now a byte, I know this is getting technical, but a byte is 8 bits. Okay, and that means the biggest number we can put in there is the number 255. All right, because that's okay. If you learn about a binary, you'll understand why it's 255. But if I say, for instance, 255, then that means that's the first channel now, the R. That's, you can't change it to GRB or any. It's got to be RGB. You've got to specify it in that order. So we say red is maximum 255, comma, let's say green is only halfway, it's 128, and or 127, and then let's say, for instance, blue is quite a bit lower, let's say 25. All right, and in Visual Studio automatically shows us our color here. It's updated up here, but in something else you might not have that luxury. So you Control S and you come here and you F5 and look at the color change now. Boom, that's the color of Hello World. We've now changed it to an RGB color. Okay, RGB means you've got 16.7 million colors. Okay, there is another color what should we call it? Another way of adding colors, and that's not RGB but RGBA. Okay, which works also in a lot of programming languages, and so that means the A stands for alpha. And that's your transparency layer. So you can say your colors are what we said they were, 255, 128, 255, but the transparency, for instance, must be 1, okay, or whatever the case may be. All right, so if we save that and we come look here, sorry, that's probably a very high number there. Where is it? Where did I do this now? All right, so let's say it's naught. How did this work again? 0.1. Yes, okay. So the A is, let's put in for instance 9 here. Okay, the A is not 255. Okay, it's between 0 and 1. All right. So if I put in 0.5, that means it's half transparency, half opaque, half transparent. Okay. So that means a bit of the background color will start seeping through. Now remember, the background color was like a blue. All right. So if I refresh here now again, okay, that's what it looks like. All right. So you've got RGBA as well. It's used quite often, but not as often as RGB. Well, it depends. It's probably used as often. Okay. And that's the basics of HTML. So you're telling it, we're dealing with HTML5. You specify the HTML tag opening and closing. All right. Then you specify your head. Okay. Now this is just header information. Okay, for your HTML page. It's like a lot of files have got header information in it, which you don't really see as such. This is normally information for the browser specifically, or maybe the search engine. You know, you could put tags in there and things like that. All right. But okay, so you got the style here. We've taken HTML tags as such and modified certain attributes of them. So you might want to change. Okay, well, we've done that, and then we've created our own classes. All right, which we can use. Okay, so if we don't specify a style or a class for P, all right, or let's say article, we don't have any P's anymore in here. So, well, let's take P out. We're not using it. Okay, so if you've got an article, for instance, all right, here's article. Okay, you might have other articles on this page as well. So the color will be white. Okay, and your divs, you've given them your own classes. You've given them 2 classes, my div, all right, and you said those are the colors. You can say, okay, so yeah, I'm specifying the class myself, but all other divs must look like this. Okay, so you go back here, you say, okay, for normal divs, okay, I want the color to be, let's just say pink. All right, should stand out nice with our blue. So in other words, if we look here now quickly, and we F5 again, okay, not much has changed, okay. But if I take out by this div here now, and I no longer tell it to use my class, but it's nothing specified. So then it comes up and it looks inside the style here and it sees, hang on, div has got a color of pink. All right. So if I come here and look at what's going to happen to div, boom, pink. Okay. Now the reason why I moved from the right to the left is I did not say that normal divs has got a text align of right. So if I take, I'm not using my div 2 anymore either. Okay, so on my div I said text align right, but on normal divs I didn't do that. I just said color pink. I didn't say what must happen to the text alignment. Okay, so if you really think about it, an HTML page, okay, it's you typically start with index.html. And then you specify that you're working in HTML5 by saying doc type HTML. Then you have the HTML opening tag and closing tag at the bottom here. Then you have your head, all right, in which you've got things like your styles and so forth, your CSS stuff, all right. Then you've got the body of your HTML, in which everything actually gets put. Everything that must be displayed is inside body. So if I just collapse body here, all right, all this other stuff is just information to HTML, all right, except for title. Okay, title you'll put up top as a title, but everything in body is what is actually going to display here now. Now, for instance, you might say, well, articles, okay, so you've got one article here. You might want that, for instance, to have a different background color. You don't want it to be blue, all right. Let's say you want that to be white, okay. So if we change the background color to white, all right, and then what do we want our color to be? Let's say, for instance, make that well, a blue, okay, so blue, but I wanted a different blue, so I'm going to go and choose a different RGB color here. I like that blue, for instance. All right, so now if I come and refresh this page, now look what happens to my article. Okay, that's my article. So the background has gone white, which is what I told it to do, and the text is blue. You can't see it so well now, but the text is blue. It's very dark, so it looks almost black, but it is blue. Okay, now you can do certain other things, for instance, with your style sheets. Okay, so you can specify the article must be, the color must be, the text color must be blue, the background color must be white, and let's say you wanted to have rounded corners on the edges here. All right, now that is called border radius. All right, you'll learn these things. There's not many, well, there's many to know, but you use the same ones over and over and over, so it's quite simple. So you say border radius, and we give it a pixel value. For instance, we say 8 pixels, all right? And if I say save on that, okay, and our F5 here, you'll notice that it's going to make it rounded corners. All right. You can go, for instance, on a header, you can give it a background color. So let's see, where's my head? Okay, so the headers, okay, is still relying on style. Now we should try not to use style. It's preferable to put everything into your style tag up top here as CSS. Okay, so let's take that out. Okay, we'll copy that color. Okay, we'll get rid of this style attribute. All right, and up top here we'll say all H1s from now on. Okay, remember the squiggly brackets. Okay, we'll have that color. All right, so in fact, if I save it now, actually nothing is going to change. So if I press F5, nothing changed. Okay. So we try and put as little like the body here, for instance. We try not to use style. We try and put everything into CSS here. It's just the way we do things nowadays. I mean, way back in the HTML itself, you could specify some colors, and then we moved over into styles and so forth, and you would specify your colors and styles, and then CSS became even bigger and bigger, and now we try and do everything in our CSS only. All right, so let's say, for instance, let's change our background. Okay, there's a reason why I want to do it. Let's change our background to white. Okay. Now, you don't have to specify it because most browsers are white by default. Okay. But you never know. Someone's browser might not make it white. It might make it a very soft gray or something. So now you're telling it, listen, I want your background to be white. Okay. Now, okay, so if we change the background to white, now the other colors, I don't know if they're going to look very good. I mean, like this, my special text and so forth, it doesn't stand out very good. This white, okay, that with the rounded corners here, you can't see anymore, okay, because the background is also white. So let's say article, we don't want it to have a background of white, okay. We want to give it a sort of a grayish color. So we come to our grays here and we choose a nice gray color. Again, you're going to have to do this by hand if you... in Notepad or so forth, but if you're using something like Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code in specific, what I'm using here, then you've got the luxury of you can just hover over it and select your color. So if I come here now and I say F5, you'll see that this background is now changed, okay, to a different color. And I can put, for instance, a shadow around it, okay, fully around it or slightly to the side of it or wherever. All right, so that's also on article. All right, so what we do here is we say box shadow. Okay, and the first thing we do is we tell them how far to the right must it move from our div or from our article, and how far down must it move. Well, I'm going to show you where we're first going to move it offset, and then later when we don't move it at all. Normally you have it offset like I'm going to show you now, but not always. So I'm going to put it on 3 pixels to the right and also 3 pixels down, and the color has got to be black. And the shadow itself, we've moved it now slightly, but how over what space does a shadow spread? Okay, so we're going to say over, let's say 8 pixels. All right, and the color is black. All right. And we save that and we come back here. Now look at what's going to happen around down here. Okay, there's a nice shadow for us. Okay, now sometimes, all right, you might want the shadow around the whole thing, not offset like we did it. So all you need to do is change this to 0 and 0. So in other words, no offset. Okay, and if you come back in, you say 5. All right, the shadow is all the way around the whole thing. Okay, now sometimes people like doing that. This 8 is maybe a little bit too big. Let's just make it a bit smaller. 5. Okay, and this black, all right, it's a little bit dark. I'm gonna go for a much lighter color. So it's just offset ever so slightly. Sorry, that's the border radius. Yes, in the box, that's fine. All right, so if we F5 now, all right. It's got this, okay, that color is not quite the color I was hoping for. Let's make the background color, because the background color and the shadow is now almost the same color. Let's make the background color white, okay? 255, 255, 255 is the same as white, okay? 000 is black, all right? So if we come here again and we F5, all right, so now that's what it looks like. Now, something else that we can see that's maybe not very nice is the lettering here is right up against the side of this div. Okay, now you get something called padding. Okay, and this will move. It'll pad. It's a term used in many programming languages and so forth. When you pad text, it'll put a space between the characters and the actual article that it's lying in. Okay, remember we're in an article here. All right, so what we can do is we can say, okay, so padding, all right, if we just say padding and we say, let's say 8 pixels, okay, or You don't always work with pixels, but we'll be using pixels. So, okay. So now it's got a nice, padding around it. So it's not all squashed up right against the side of this thing. Okay. It is possible, okay, that you might want to have, so the thing is with an article takes up the entire page. All right. But you might not want that. Okay. You might only want it to be halfway. Or let's say, for instance, you want it to be in the middle and only 900 pixels wide, for instance. Okay, so well, we can play around with that. So the first thing is with article, we're going to tell them, okay, so your width, all right, we might have to specify max width, but let's just see. So width, we're going to say is 900 pixels. Oh, 9,800, that's a nice big number. 900 pixels, okay. So if we control S on that and refresh here, okay, so you see it's come into the side here a bit. Okay, so, but the thing is, if you take your browser, okay, your window in and out like this, okay, you might want that gap there. All right, so you want this thing to change in size. That gap must always stay similar in size. So what you can do there is actually specify a percentage, for instance. All right, so your width is not 900 pixels, okay, but it is, let's say, 85%. 85%. Okay, so that's 85% of what? It's 85% of the maximum width capable. All right, so if I refresh here, all right, so that's at 85%, and if I change this, you'll notice that it hopped, and as I do this, you see it's coming in, and going out, going out. Okay, so this is where it starts getting important, like if you're doing mobile and web and desktop development, is so that the page resizes itself correctly for whatever you're working on, a mobile screen or whatever, or a desktop screen, like in this case. But let's say we want this entire thing stuck in the center. Okay, this entire article must be in the center of your page. Okay, so that's another a styling thing, a CSS thing. All right, so what we're going to do is, I could do it at the bottom, but I want to do it at the top here. Okay, is like that. Oops, I should have a double colon here. All right, and we control S that, and F5, and you now see it's moved to the center. Okay, so if I say, let's make this, for instance, a maximum width of 65%. Okay, now you'll be able to see it better. So if I F5 here, okay, it's a little bit narrower now. Okay, and if I change the size of my browser, all right, it also changes. You see? Okay, so this is what the style sheets do for you. Okay, so really your HTML bit, okay, is basically saying, I want to display a header, I want to display some text and so forth. But what it physically looks like, all right, is done by your style tag here, okay, and with the CSS that you've got inside of it, okay, the cascading style sheets, okay. There's others things that you can do here as well. You can use, like, for instance, IDs. Like you can, there's an attribute on everything. Let's say, for instance, on this article. All right, maybe in JavaScript I want to refer to this article and maybe hide it if somebody presses some button or something. Well, what I can do is I can give it an ID. Okay, it's an attribute ID equals. Okay, and I just call it some name. Okay, my article. All right, then I can now access through JavaScript. Okay, I can now access this article, and I can change the text inside it, or I can hide it, I can move it around, I can do all sorts of things with it. Okay, now something else that you can do with style sheets is, let's say, for instance, if you move over, let's say, for instance, the original color of your article, okay, the background color, which we made white, okay, let's make it not white, let's make it well, whatever, some other color, okay, let's make it quite dark, okay, for whatever reason, let's say it's dark, okay. So if I come over it here and I refresh, Okay, it's dark. Okay, but what I want to do is when I move the mouse over it, okay, I want it to go to white. Okay, which we had just now. So you have something which you call hover. So what we're doing is we're going to take again article colon hover. Okay, this refers to the mouse hovering. Okay, and then we're going to say when it hovers, okay, the article, the background color must change to, let's say, white. Okay, so it's background color change to white. Okay, so the hover says when we go to the background color, okay, at the moment nothing happens, but if I F5, still looks the same, but watch when I go with the mouse. Boom, it's gone white. Okay. Now something else you can do is make that happen very slowly, like not instantaneous. Okay. Sometimes it's nice when a thing slowly fades in and slowly fades out as the mouse goes in and out. Okay. And for that we have something called transition. Okay. So in other words, so on article, okay, we say anytime any of our tags change, okay, it's transitions, okay, from one setting to another setting, okay. So we say transition, all right. Now we can specify what. So we can say like background color, okay. Oops, transition. I don't know how to spell properly. Transition, okay. But you can, if you just say all, okay, this is the easiest to start with. You can say transition everything, okay, over a period of, let's say, 0.3 seconds. Okay, and if we save that, so we've added, sorry, just got interrupted there by my cell phone. So where was I? Okay, so the transition, so we're saying all things that change, all right, must happen over a period of 0.3 seconds. It doesn't work out to exactly that, I've noticed over the years, but yeah, okay, so you can use that as a starting point. So what it says is any change, all right, must happen over a period of 0.3 seconds. So yeah, this is what we're doing. So we're changing on hover. So when the mouse goes over, we're changing the background color. So there's a transition that must take place. So it happens over 0.3 seconds. So if I save that and I come here and I F5 it, now watch what happens when I go over with my mouse. Nice effect. Okay, just to prove to you that it really is working, let's make it 0.7 for instance, so it's very slow now. Okay, and F5 again, and we move our mouse over. You'll notice how it's changing. Okay, and one last thing that we can look at, for instance, is if you want to display an image. Okay, let's just put this transition, for instance, back to I like maybe 0.4. All right. Let's say we want an image, for instance. Okay, so let's get rid of this duplicate here, over here. All right, so we want to display an image. All right, so you can say the tag for an image, okay, is img. All right, then an attribute is where is this image, okay, where on the hard drive is the image. Now it doesn't work with like in Windows C:/ or Linux, /home or whatever. It doesn't work like that. It's relative to the current file. In other words, where our index.html file is lying on the hard drive, it's relative to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy a file, an image, into the same folder as where index.html is lying, and then we're going to display that. All right, but so what we do is we say image, so then we say src for source equals, all right, and now we've got to type out our file name, all right, and then you have something called alt, all right, alternate, okay. So in other words, if the image cannot be displayed for some reason, then it must display a piece of text. Okay, now some systems evidently use this to, like, if you can't see very well, it'll read out those words for you. Your computer will read them out for you. But it's generally used that if something goes wrong and the image can't be displayed, then at least it shows some text there. So you know, if it's actually an image of a girl with a hat on, then the alternate text will be girl with hat on. All right, so that you know what should be there. So let's just call it our image, not very descriptive at all, but okay, our image. All right, and then we close it. Now you'll notice on an image, you do not have that little forward slash there. Okay. So you don't always have that little forward slash for a closing tag. Image has got nothing inside to close in a tag. Okay, so it's just one thing on its own. So what we must now go and do is we must find ourselves a nice image that we can copy to this folder. So let's just go again to let's go and look at some images. Let's say, for instance, here we can go and have a look at something, and let's say we like this picture here, for instance, here. What is this? Let's see how big it is. Yeah, let's take that picture, for instance. That's a nice Bugatti Veyron. Not the Veyron, the Chiron there. But okay, let's copy that, Control C that, and remember our stuff is lying in this folder here. All right, so I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so now they're in the same folder. All right. But they typically they are not in the same folder in when you're doing real web development. This will be in a subfolder. All right, so I don't feel like typing out this long name in my HTML, so I'm just going to call it image.jpg. It could be a PNG file if you want a file with transparency and so forth. Most of the images I use are PNGs, but JPEG's excellent. All right, so we've got a file called image.jpg now. So if we go back to our HTML, and at the bottom here, so by source, all right, so I just say image and .jpg. So he's going to look in the same folder for the image. Okay, in our current folder where index.html is lying, that's where the browser is going to pull it from, or for instance IIS or Apache or Nginx, when they serve up your HTML, they're going to be doing that. So if I F5 here now, okay, here's our car down here. All right, but the image is way too big. Okay, so what's important to remember though is that you know, a lot of these things are being sent obviously over the internet, over networks, and sometimes people are using it on cell phones or, you know, some mobile devices, and they don't have all that much internet bandwidth. They don't have all that much data they can download. So it's not a good idea to give them massive pictures. All right, but you can resize your pictures. Okay, so in other words, like by image, for instance, this particular one, we could do it up here by style. All right, but I'm going to do it in here for, just out of laziness. I'm going to give it a value here and say the width is, let's say, 500 pixels. All right, and it will automatically know what the height must be. It'll keep the same ratio for us. All right, so if I now just come here and I refresh, okay, there, it all fits all nicely. Okay, let's say, for instance, though, I want this car to be in the center of my screen, though. Okay, so same would apply here. Hang on a second. Sorry, margin. Yeah. Hang on. Okay, so my mistake. Okay, so in order to align it, okay, we're going to stick it inside a div. All right, and inside this div, we got to say style, and we say margin auto, and give it a width of. Well, we'll get to that now. Let's just close this first. Okay. Okay, so if we say just that, so we say then width is 100%. Okay. Still isn't like that. Let's just change our background of this div. So it's just that I can see what it is. Just give it any old color, violet. All right. And I often do this. So that's the colors. Okay, so the div is right, but the image is not. Oh, the image is not aligning to it. Okay, my mistake. So what we want to do then is say, in fact, not that. Don't know why I did that. We just want to say text align and center again. Okay, and let's get rid of this violet here, terrible color for a. Okay, and I'll just do a semicolon there. All right, and if we F5 now, it's stuck it in the middle. Okay, and all pretty. But let's say, okay, we want a same as up top here. Okay, we want a border around our image. Maybe we also want a shadow around it. Okay. So what we can do then is on our image, but remember, you could also do it here by your CSS stuff. Probably the correct place to do it, but we'll just do it here for now. So we say, okay, so the width of our image is 500. It'll calculate the height for us from that. Okay, we don't have to do it. And then you can say, okay, so the border is, let's say, 2 pixels thick, and it is what color should we make it? Just blue. Okay, just blue. All right, and it's a solid border. In other words, it's a solid line. Okay, so you get different kinds of lines and stuff that you can use. All right, so we give it a border. All right, so if we look at that, okay, we'll have a border around it. Okay, I don't like this bit up top here where it's almost touching each other here. So you could put a margin there or whatever, but we're just gonna do the break because I've already shown you the break. So if we go here now, all right, there'll be a slight break there. Okay, and let's say I want this thing to have shadows, this image. All right, so then we say box shadow, and we're gonna say because the other one also, you gotta have, you can't have shadows on one item on your website being offset of, let's say, 4 pixels and another one being no offset. It's always got to look like the light source shining on your objects to make them look 3D is coming from the same side and so forth. So if our previous border, all right, which we specified up here, our box shadow was 0, okay, this one must also be 0, okay, because it's telling us where the light is shining from. You don't have to, but then it just looks correct. Okay, so it's 0, 0, and then we're going to give it a shadow of, let's say, 12 pixels. So it's quite spread out, 12 pixels. All right, and the color is going to be black, but I'm going to make not really black. I'm going to make it a little bit more grayish. Let's say there. All right, and we save that, and we come and refresh here, and there's our spaghetti stuck on a nice little image. But let's say we wanted rounded corners. Those looks a little bit sharp. Okay, then just remember, you can put them anywhere, but there's normally a sequence that most people follow. But okay, so let's say border radius, and let's make it 10 pixels, and save that. And if we look here, okay, you got a nice little border around it, and that's pretty. So you could, when you move your mouse over it, you can maybe change the color or let it zoom in or out, or there's many things you can do with HTML and CSS and including JavaScript, of course. But we're not covering JavaScript in this video. This is just an intro to how does HTML work, and well, in answer to how does HTML work. On your own computer, all right, what we've done is we've double-clicked on our index.html file, and it's opened up in our browser for us, okay? But in the real world, actually, when you go to a server on the website, let's say you go to google.com, okay? That's also, it's HTML, all right? But the thing is, well, I mean, I can show it to you if we go for, oh, sorry, not there, so we're already here. So if you go to google.com, all right, so this page from Google. So remember, if we go to view page source, okay, this is all their HTML that they've got on their page, all right. Here's some div. There's a class, for instance. They've created a class called that, etc., etc. So, but this is what the page looks like. You know, behind all this, it's the same as ours. Behind all this, this is what it looks like. Okay, that's what ours looks like. All right. And but one thing that's important is see how nice and neat it is. All right, you can follow with your eye very easy how things are done. But sometimes, because you want to save bandwidth and not download too much data, you want to get rid of the spaces and so forth. That's called minification. And yes, that makes your file slightly smaller, but sometimes, you know, it doesn't really matter. But okay, so we've got that, and so yeah. What we can do is maybe just have a quick example of, for instance, what happens with JavaScript. We can have a button that you click on and it's going to say to you, hello world. All right. Now remember, like I said, everything is basically HTML and JavaScript and CSS. Okay, so why did I do that? Not sure. So if you go back there. Okay, so you can have another, let's just, this is the nice thing about Visual Studio Code is you can collapse pieces. So it's not gone, we just collapse it. All right, so it takes the entire tag and collapses it. All right, so just so that we can see things easier. So we're going to create a new tag, okay, and it's called script. All right, and you should specify the language is JavaScript and so on, but most browsers know what you mean when you don't type it in. But okay, so we're going to have some JavaScript and we want a function. This is how, so JavaScript is a programming language, all right? And we want a function to call from a button. So let's say, for instance, here, under this image, let's just put a break here again. Or you can put in a new article or a new paragraph or whatever, but all right. Let's put a break in there, and then we have input, okay? And we say type equals button, all right? And then we tell it, there's another attribute, okay? On click, okay? It must run the JavaScript function called show message. You name whatever you want, okay? Show message, all right? And you've got to have that, the open close brackets with JavaScript, okay? To tell them that this is a function that you're calling. You can read up on what functions or methods are in your own time, but it's basically little pieces of code that you can call from a programming language. So up top here now, so we say function and the name of our function, also the open close, just to tell there's no parameters being sent through anything. All right, then we want to show something on the screen that says hello world, all right? And we can use, there's many things you can do, but pure Java is going to be calling the alert, okay, message box, all right? So it's alert, and we're going to say hello world. All right, so what's going to happen now is when somebody comes and clicks on this, this button, okay, it's got to have some text to it, or is it value, but I think it's text. Text equals, we're just going to say click me. Okay, so if we do this and we F5, okay, here's our button. Looks like a text didn't work, but if we click on it, it says hello world. All right, so that's just calling something in JavaScript. What is the issue here? I suppose it's value. No, it can't be value. I've sort of gone blank here for a moment. What is it? Is it value? Yeah, value. Okay. Click me. All right. I haven't done some of these. There we go. Click me. All right. So you can click on it and it says hello world. All right. But you can make it do all sorts of other weird and wonderful things as well. You can, you know, like I said, you can make things, you can move things around, make things disappear, you know, jump up and down, whatever the case you want. You know, JavaScript is a full-blown programming language as such. And so there you have it. So that's basically covering absolute basics, but of HTML and even just touching on JavaScript. I know this was quite a long video. I didn't intend that, but hopefully this tells you something about how HTML works, works with tags and CSS and classes. And so yes, I hope that helped you a little bit. Okay guys, see you next time. Bye bye.